12th, 2021 special meeting of the Watertown Board of Education. Please rise as Mr. Makowski leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Davidson?
Mr. Makowski?
Here.
Ms. Rinaldi?
Here.
Ms. Wilk?
Here.
Ms. Crotty?
Here.
Mr. Flaherty? Ms. Rosa?
Here.
Ms. Eastman?
Here.
Mr. Malgudy?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Davidson. And just a note on the attendance this evening, Board Member Brian Flaherty, as recorded in the meeting yesterday, cannot participate and will not be participating in any of the mascot discussions or votes, as it is a conflict of interest based on where his wife's place of employment is. Moving on to item D, our first round of public participation. If you'd like to address the board, please state your name, your street address, and limit your comments to this evening's agenda item only. I will continue to ask if there's anyone else who would like to address the board until there is no longer any response. If for any reason you're having any issues responding, please write in the chat box and our IT department will try to address it for you. Please unmute yourself and let us know if you'd like to address the board.
Yes.
Yes.
Joseph
Go ahead,
Romano.
Mr. Romano. Go ahead.
Joseph Romano, French Street, Watertown, Connecticut. I am from the class of 1969 at Watertown High School, a former coach, and a community civic volunteer. It's hard to put into words without showing anger and keeping my passion over the controversy started by a group who claim to love and care about Watertown. It makes me wonder how this could be started during the worst pandemic of our lifetime. You wonder where we've been the last 6 months, as one educator has asked me. The answer is we've been fighting for our lives, our businesses, mourning our friends and loved ones, not being able to visit our families in the hospital, wonder if we would ever see them again. Young couples not knowing who will watch their children so they can go to work if they still have a job, which many have lost. Not being able to watch our grandchildren play sports or going to any group activities. I'm not saying no one has the right to debate this issue right now. I apologize. Right now is definitely not the time to bring this up. Those who have brought this controversy should rethink this action for all the reasons I've stated above. Our students need as many things to get back to normal as they can. This is tearing the town apart, the community apart, at a time when we should be thinking of positive ways to make our lives better. I would hope this committee and our Board of Education take these words seriously. Your decisions of change, if any, will be written in stone for the future in generations to come. This was tried before and wasn't accepted. Wasn't accepted then, and certainly will not be accepted now. I respect everyone on this committee and our Board of Education. please rethink. Please postpone this decision till the pandemic is over and we could come with calmer heads, and calmer heads will prevail. Thank you for your time and God bless you. And please pray for everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Romano. Any members of the public wish to address
Yes.
the board? Please state your name and go ahead.
Yes, I would. My name, is that all right, Ms. Crotty? Okay. My name is Rich Eveletta. I live on 87 Concord Drive, Watertown, Connecticut. I've been past president of the Water Oak Circle of Sports for 2 terms. I've been a basketball coach in town, volunteer basketball coach. I probably did every sport there has been in the town of Watertown in the recreation department, not only at Swift Junior High School and at St. Mary Magdalene's. I played varsity sports for the Watertown Indians from 1964 to 1967. Yes, I'm 72 years old. This question that we have now is much bigger than the commission can handle. The commission is made up of board members, high school principal, teachers, and students. As far as the students go, I'm not really into that, but it is what it is. It's there now. They'll probably learn some things in democracy, but I don't think they're necessary unless they could pay taxes in the town of Watertown for them to be in there. But all of the others I mentioned above are caretakers for our school system. This matter of changing the school mascot has grown to another factor or phase. This is now not a town this is now a town matter or a community matter in which both sides have some common ground. The common ground is change. Change on the people that want to get rid of the Indian, and change with people that want to produce a better view of the Indian. If you look at Colleen Murphy's website, one of the leaders to get rid of the mascot, she cites about towns, cities, state, and country that need change about Native Americans. The same goes for Krista Palumbo, who wants to keep the mascot. As you can see, they have the same goals, but they are heading in different directions. They can work it out. The Board of Education wants to vote on this next week or so. My question is why? There is plenty of time to keep on having discussion to be heard. It took the Charter Commission over a year to come up with 11 questions on change. Why the hurry now? I would like I would not want to be on the Board of Education to make this huge decision about something they really should not be voting. Remember, they are only caretakers, not policymakers when it comes to the town. I suggest a town referendum so the whole town has the right to vote on this matter. This is a community, and we should set the referendum up around the town's budget, which is in a couple of months. This gives both sides a time to discuss how we together can solve this issue. It can be done. If I was on the Board of Education, I really applaud you guys for even trying to attempt to solve this, but this is nothing you could solve. We need the town, the community, because it is a town and community now. Before it wasn't. It has grown, and it's going to continue to grow unless we have a vote. A simple line on the town budget, which is in a couple of months. Do we want to abolish the Watertown Indian or keep the Watertown Indian? Yes or no? If it falls on we keep it, we keep it. If it falls on no, then we get rid of it. I'd just like to say, and relate to the board, in the mid-2000s, and I'm going to bring this up, which you must know anyway, Killington, Connecticut had a mascot called the Redman, and they voted it out. A year later, the town voted out the school board and reinstated the Redman. I don't want this to happen to our school board. We have very good people on it, and I know you will do the right thing. Please don't put yourself in harm's way. Please go to a referendum. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Avaletta. Any other members of the public wish to address the board this evening?
Hi, I would like to address the board actually. Colleen
Please
Murphy.
go ahead.
Sure. Hi, I'm Colleen Murphy. I just want to address quickly the quote of "Don't put yourself in harm's way." That kind of shakes me to my core as a little bit of intimidation, which I really don't appreciate. Just for everybody in the community, after what has happened this past couple of weeks, that type of rhetoric is really harmful and dangerous. And so I just want to like make sure that everyone that's a decision maker in this very important decision for our town isn't intimidated to make a decision that they feel is right. I really, that really shakes me. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Any other members of the public wish to address the board at this time?
Yes, I would like to address the board. Kelly
Please go right
Lambert,
ahead.
Kelly Lambert, 301 Oak Drive. I would like to reiterate what Colleen said. The statement "in harm's way" is not appropriate for this matter. This is the Board of Education's decision. They are elected to take care of our schools, and that's completely inappropriate to bring into this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the community wish to address the board at this time? Okay, hearing none, there will be another round of public participation later on in the evening, and we will move on to item E, mascot committee recommendation presentation and discussion. In response to a public request to change the Watertown High School mascot from people who have graduated from Watertown High School over the last approximately 35 to 40 years, the board established the Watertown Public Schools Mascot Committee to begin a community engagement process that would examine the use of the current Indian name and mascot. So, 4 students, 2 parents, 2 community members, 2 faculty or staff members, the athletic director, 2 administrators, and 2 Board of Education members began the 4-month-long process and are now ready to inform the Board of Education of their findings on the matter and present to the board their recommendations about the current use and name of the mascot. While sharing the process with you is very easy, the decision is not. And no matter which way the board votes on this matter, there will be unhappy people. While the board tries to make informed decisions based on a thorough and transparent community process in which all voices are heard, respected, and included, the community is left to respond and live with whatever decision is made, and that will not be easy. So, in addition to listening to community members, Native Americans, educators, students, and reading hundreds of pages of testimony, we must focus on how we move forward from whatever the decision is. If we can all agree on one thing, it is that we all love our town and the bonds that we have within it. We must work together to come together and create an environment where we are united in wanting to make people feel like they belong here, so those on both sides of the issue can heal and move forward. Over the past couple of weeks, I have called upon many of our town leaders to be a part of helping to repair the wounds that this matter has brought on and to help our community unite once again. So while we prepare to hear the recommendations of the committee and a subsequent vote by the board, let us think about what comes next, how we move forward, and the part that each of us will play in that process. We all yearn for human connection and solidarity, and with such a divisive issue, it is imperative that we each model what it looks like to unite around similarities while also carefully considering our differences. We must move forward with hope and let this incredibly caring community find a way to come together on this issue once a decision has been made. Dr. Parlato, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mrs. Crotty.
You're welcome.
And thank you to the board for this opportunity for the committee's presentation. I'm going to share my screen. Sorry, it wasn't at the beginning. There it is. I have to begin by thanking the members of the committee. Not only did they devote hours of their own time to this process, but they ensured that they listened respectfully to each other. They made sure that everyone understood each other's viewpoints, and it was really a model of productive, honest, caring discourse. So thank you to the committee for really what is courageous work. They volunteered to participate in this, and they stuck with it all the way through. And so I have to thank them for their work. It was really remarkable to engage in these discussions over the past few months. As Mrs. Crotty mentioned, the committee's origin comes from a public request that the Board of Education received in August 2020. Then on September 14th, 2020, the Board of Education established the Watertown Public Schools Mascot Committee to begin this community engagement process that examined the use of the current Indian name and mascot. We had several purposes to the committee, and so as I said previously, it was to begin a community engagement process. It was to engage in a community discussion with the assistance of experts in the field on the subjects of race, culture, and the use of Native American school mascot and name. And then finally, of course, to make recommendations that are due to the Board of Education for their follow-up and possible action no later than January 19th, 2021. We wanted to provide a little state of Connecticut and national context. And I know that Mr. Avaletta referenced this as well. So you can see the schools at the bullet points. Manchester High School changed their native mascot in June 2019. As was referenced before, Killingly High School changed theirs in July 2019 and then revoted in January 2020 to return to the native mascot. Ram High School, which is regional Hebron, Andover, and Marlborough in Eastern Connecticut, changed their native mascot in March 2020. Newington High School, also the Indians, changed their mascot in June 2020. Guilford High School, December 2020. Farmington High School in December 2020. They were also the Indians. National context, as you've seen in the media, I'm sure Cleveland Indians and Washington Redskins have moved to change, while the Chicago Blackhawks have moved to keep. And of course, there are numerous college teams. There are too many to analyze, but I wanted to provide you with what is going on in our state and the major stories within our country. A little bit about our process. So we were established as a committee on September 14th. We held 6 committee meetings on the dates that you can see there. We had 2 guest speakers present to the committee. First was Dr. Glenn Matoma. He is of the University of Connecticut Human Rights Institute, and he's also a professor of curriculum and instruction in the School of Education. Another guest speaker we had was Mr. Tony Henson. He was representing the Native American Guardians Association. In addition, we had 2 virtual town halls, one on November 17th and one on January 5th. And testimony was submitted for both of those town halls. And when I post these slides later, you'll be able to access the testimony. That's why those words are blue and underlined. The committee began its work with some guiding questions. So what created the frame for our discussions when we started out came from the questions as follows. How does the use of the current mascot affect student learning? What is the educational impact of the use of the current mascot? How does the use of the current mascot align with our district strategic plan? And how does the use of the current mascot align with the district's vision of a graduate? The next two slides will provide you with a summary of some of the guest speakers that we had, some of the research that exists about Native American school mascots, and also a presentation that the board heard from Attorney Jessica Ritter, who is the board's attorney. So we'll begin with a summary of Dr. Matoma's presentation. He was the professor of curriculum instruction and also the director of the Human Rights Institute at UConn. So I'm not going to read all of these points exactly. I'll summarize them for you. Dr. Matoma stated that the work of our committee has to be framed around the education of students. So when we're thinking about the mascot question, we have to think about educational impact. A related question to that is, what does the evidence show about the impact of Native mascots on students and student learning? And there is indeed research that points to that. Dr. Matoma also said the committee should consider how the current mascot reflects the district's core values and beliefs and how it connects to the mission of the district. Of course, acknowledging that the school plays a central role in the community in terms of identity and belonging, and the mascot is a very important symbol of identity and belonging in all towns. Dr. Matoma also asked us to consider the legal impact and liability on a district. If the district knowingly maintains their mascot, and they also know that that mascot has a disproportionate impact on people in protected classes, such as race, gender, age, or ethnicity, does that open the district up to additional liability or additional legal impact? He asked us to consider that point. We also had a presentation from Mr. Henson of the Native American Guardians Association. And he explained to us that the focus of that organization is about the education of people about Native American history and culture, as opposed to eliminating logos and mascots from schools that are Native Americans. Mr. Henson explained to us that the majority of Native Americans on reservations respect having Native mascots as long as it is done respectfully. He explained to us that there's a difference between a logo and a costumed entertainer. And so his organization approves of a respectful symbol and not an individual in a costume. He also said there needs to be standards for fan behavior. So people wearing headdresses or chanting in the audience when they're watching a game should not be allowed. He perceived that, and his organization feels that that is disrespectful. Appropriate symbols that are Native American should serve as a source of pride for a school. According to his organization. And he explained that many people in the Native American community were devastated by the Washington Redskins' decision to change their mascot. I also forgot to mention, related to Mr. Henson's presentation, that he is of Native American ancestry. Attorney Ritter is the Board of Education's attorney, and she presented to the board last month. So some of the things she talked about in 2001, the United States Commission on Civil Rights called for an end to the use of Native American images and team names by non-Native schools. Also, the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights explained that Native mascots may violate anti-discrimination laws and that the use of stereotypical images of Native Americans by educational institutions has the potential to create a racially hostile educational environment. Attorney Ritter also explained what the Connecticut Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities said about the matter. They stated that it is no longer tenable to treat any ethnic or racial group as appropriated symbols for school athletics. Attorney Ritter also reminded the board that boards of education maintain a fiduciary responsibility for school districts. If a board maintains a mascot that's been called discriminatory by the Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities, her position as legal counsel becomes heightened. She has heightened concern about that because of the financial responsibility for the district that a board holds. And one more point from Attorney Ritter's presentation, she referenced Connecticut General Statutes 10-15C, which states that public schools shall be open to all children 5 years and over, and it's a much longer statute, but the relevant part for our discussion tonight is without discrimination on account of race, color, sex, gender identity or expression, religion, national origin, or sexual orientation. And that's part of Connecticut state law about how public schools must function. There is a body of research that points to the impact of Native mascots upon students. And so in 2001, the American Psychological Association published a paper explaining why Native mascots are harmful within schools. So as you can see in their quote, they stated that the continued use of American Indian mascots, symbols, images, and personalities undermines the educational experiences of members of all communities, especially those that have little or no contact with Indigenous peoples. The American Psychological Association also stated the use of American Indian mascots, symbols, images, and personalities has a negative impact on communities by allowing for the perpetuation of stereotypes and stigmatization of another cultural group. There's a study, one of the more famous studies about Native American mascot impact on students by Freiberg, Marcus, Oyserman, and Stone. Two of those researchers are from Stanford University, and one is from Harvard, one is from University of Arizona. They concluded that although pro-mascot advocates suggest that American Indian mascots are complimentary and honorific, they, meaning the mascots, have negative consequences because there are relatively few alternate characterizations of American Indians. The current American Indian representations function as inordinately powerful communicators to natives and non-natives alike of how American Indians should look and behave. Shifting gears a little bit, one of the questions that we've heard and have been asked to committee members and to myself has to do with uniform costs. So if there was a change to the mascot, what would be the financial impact regarding athletics uniforms? And so for everyone's information, all Watertown athletics uniforms are replaced on a 5-year cycle. All of the current uniforms, except for ice hockey, which is a co-op team with Comparog, use the word Watertown or the W. So we don't have uniforms except for ice hockey that say Indians. And so there wouldn't have to be a massive switch out of uniforms with a big financial cost to that. We would remain on our 5-year cycle and slowly change them. There were some areas of definitive agreement for the committee. One of the first ones that we talked about is maintaining the WHS colors, which are, you can see, are represented on these slides. Another area of agreement in the committee was expanding educational programming and curriculum related to Native American studies and expanding curriculum related to Watertown history. Not necessarily only related to Native Americans, but for students to know the history of the town of Watertown from its beginnings, from its start to the present. This is really one of the most important slides we have. Other than the recommendation, this is probably the most important slide. The committee agreed that honoring the rich traditions and accomplishments of Watertown High School students and student athletes who excelled while participating in curricular and co-curricular activities using the Indian logo and name is central to our school's mission. The committee agreed that reverence and respect for the past is important, and the Watertown Indians moniker is an integral and essential part of the high school's history. And truly the most important point, the committee agreed that any recommendations it makes are not being made to condemn the past, but rather to focus on a unified future. I can't make that point strongly enough. The committee's recommendation is as follows. After its extensive deliberations, the Watertown Public Schools Mascot Committee recommends the following to the Board of Education. Retire the current Indian mascot and logo and replace it with the mascot, the Warriors, with a logo to be designed and selected by current Watertown High School students. The committee agreed that the values and characteristics implied by the current Indian mascot when representing the school, such as bravery, loyalty, fierceness, are also represented by a warrior mascot. The committee acknowledges that this recommendation is non-binding and is a matter to be voted upon by the Watertown Board of Education. Again, thank you to the members of the committee. Thank you certainly to the Board of Education for the opportunity for the committee to meet and to examine the issues. And thank you for all the people who sent in testimony to us and to all the participants in the town halls and to this board meeting. As Ms. Crotty said, it demonstrates just how much people care about our community, which is truly a wonderful thing to see.
Thank you, Dr. Parlato. Members of the mascot committee, I thank you for serving on it. Your involvement and dedication to this process was definitely not an easy task. And the board appreciates your courage and the perseverance it took to engage in these types of discussions. As people begin to share their thoughts on the recommendations made here this evening, remember that you have done a great service. You absolutely have done a great service to this community. Some of the most important work that you can take, excuse me, some of the most important work you can do takes place under some kind of personal duress. Your courage and commitment is greatly appreciated by everybody on this board. Do board members have any questions that you would like to ask Dr. Parlato on the recommendations that she's presented?
Not a question, but just to resonate what you said, Leslie, about a sincere thank you to Dr. Parlato and the other members of the committee for their hard work and efforts on the topic there, and for a well-presented slideshow and very informative speech here regarding the decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malaguti. Any other board members have any questions related to the presentation?
Ms. Crotty, I don't have a question, but I do have a few things being on the Board of Ed, on the committee, and a lifelong resident of Watertown. I do have something that I would like to share. Before I do that, I would just like to address Mr. Avaletti's comment. I've known him for a long time. I know what you said was taken out of content, and I know you did not mean any harm to the Board of Education. I just feel I need to share that. When I was asked to be on the mascot committee, I jumped at the opportunity. After all, I was voted most class spirit. This decision is going to be very easy. Little did I know how emotional, difficult, and controversial this process was going to be. As most of you know, I grew up in Watertown and attended all Watertown public schools. Remaining in Watertown and raising my family here has brought me nothing but joy. To see my girls go through the same schools and even have some of the same teachers as I did has been heartwarming. And nothing has been more gratifying than watching my husband's wardrobe shift to orange, black, and white. I love the way the people and the local business owners of our community come together when families are in need, to support our students, or just enjoy a night out on Main Street. I tell you all this because I have now and always had nothing but pride for our community and our Watertown High School Indian mascot. I want nothing more than our mascot to remain and again be worn proudly on all uniforms and club or school apparel. When I heard alumni and community members speak out about changing our mascot because it offends them, my thoughts and beliefs to that were, in life there's going to be many things we don't like, that don't go our way or might offend us. But that's just how it goes sometimes. We can't change everything that as individuals we don't like. I've also heard people comparing us to professional sports teams like the Redskins or the California Angels, protesting that even they change their names. And to that I say, comparing us to an organization that will lose millions of dollars in endorsements if they don't change your name is ridiculous, because we can't even compare the two. But as a Board of Education member, my role is to make educational and well thought out decisions based on the needs of the school community. So as a committee member, I had to put on a different hat and look deeper into what the Indian mascot represents. I decided to reach out to Wendell Deerwithhorns. And for those of you who have lived in Watertown for a long time, you might recognize the name or even know him personally. Mr. Deerwithhorns was born and raised on the Cheyenne River Sioux Indian Reservation in South Dakota. He is a two-kettle band of the Lakota Nation. Mr. Deer with Horns has lived in Watertown for over 35 years. He is a veteran and a member of the American Legion. He has been in our schools and he has shared stories and educated our students on his culture. I felt a Watertown resident and a true Native American could guide me to make the best decision. Wendell was very welcoming and open in our conversation. He shared some background information with me, and although he doesn't get involved in the political aspects of things, when I asked him if he was offended of the use of the Indian name and logo, his answer was yes. I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you that deep down I was disappointed in his answer, but I also knew I had to respect his voice. He did, however, continue to tell me that he'd be proud to have Native Americans represented with a spiritual animal. He actually mentioned the Wolverines in particular and said it exhibits strength, endurance, courage, fierceness, and most importantly, the ability to stand and hold its ground. On January 25th, if the Board of Education decides to retire our mascot, those of you who brought this forward should not feel a sense of victory. You have expressed views during this process that have divided our community. You have said hurtful names and derogatory remarks. Someone's enthusiasm or sense of pride doesn't make them prejudiced, racist, or even an elitist. It makes them human and passionate. To the community and alumni friends who continue to embrace their Indian pride, I'm with you. For in my heart, there will always be that 1989 Watertown High School graduate with the most school spirit who is forever proud to have been an Indian. But today I understand that as time goes on, sometimes things might have to change. But that certainly wouldn't diminish what we had or erase our beliefs. It will simply make us stronger and start us on a new journey of pride and memories. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Rinaldi. We can combine item F with board member comments or questions for Dr. Parlato. Any other board members have comments or questions at this time? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to the last round of public participation. Again, please state your name and street address and limit your comments to this evening's agenda item. And I will continue to ask if there's anybody that wants to address the board until we don't hear any response. Do any members of the public wish to address the board?
Yes, Joseph Romano, French Street, Watertown, Connecticut.
Thank you, Joe.
With all respect, and I'm not reading anything off of a paper, all respect to the committee and the Board of Education, there's no winners and there's certainly losers in this decision you made. We will never stop giving back. I have been fortunate to be in groups that have given over $100,000 to scholarships to Watertown student athletes. We've also given to other aspects of the community when they were in need. One of them even being Wendell Deer with Horns when his back was up against the wall. I went to Wendell's behalf. He had some issues and I was there with him. The word fanatic, fans, we are fanatics for our town. We love Watertown. We will continue to go to all the sporting events. There are members of the education department in our town that have been afraid to come forward and give their opinion because of their livelihood. I can understand that. I'm at an age now at almost 70 years old. I'm going to continue being me. We're going to continue having our businesses and support our town and support our town's athletes. There isn't any threat here, but what it is a situation where you made a rash decision at a real bad time. There are so many people that could not, they don't have pinpoints. They're worried about their families' lives, their families' health, their jobs. I hope you all understand that the decision that you made, you didn't have the whole town at heart. you're making national quotes. We're Watertown. We love Watertown. We're proud to be a Watertown Indian. I'm not throwing away any of my old clothes. As a matter of fact, I wear it with pride. And most of my friends, thousands of alumni, are in our corner. Trust me. You are right now with this decision. You are the minority, but evidently the minority right now has the power. And it's not a threat because we love our town. And Mr. Avaletta is one of the most wonderful men in this town that has been in the salt mines with people. And he did not mean a disparaging remark when he said that. I respect all of you on this committee, and I respect all of this.
Mr. Romano, if I might just clarify, the board has made no decision. We simply received a recommendation, and Mrs. Rinaldi was talking about her own personal feelings at this time. So, okay, so no decision has been made, but we're just receiving the recommendation from the committee, and we're gonna. Okay, just want to make sure.
And we have our right for our speech. I respect everyone on this committee, because most of them, even the ones that are against my beliefs, I've grown to love. It's not a point. It's a point of I am passionate in my feelings, and I am a speaker. I am a voice for thousands, not hundreds, thousands of alumnus and some of the youth of our town. And it's never going to change. And I respect all of you tonight, and you live with your decision. We're living with our passion. We love our town. God bless you guys. And I pray things get better, and just hoping that you understand the decisions you made and the quotes that you made tonight are going to live in stone for the rest of our lives. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Joe. Any other members of the public wish to address the board this evening?
Hi, Leslie. Can I say a few words? It's Chris Faressa.
Yes, please go right ahead.
Okay. I have a letter that I had submitted today that I'd like to read tonight, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. My name is Christine Faressa. I live at 24 Kimberly Lane here in Watertown. I'm a longtime resident of Watertown, and I've had a few thoughts since the mascot committee was actually formed. So if not for Krista Palumba pushing forth on keeping the Indian mascot logo, there would not have been robust debate on the topic where all sides could speak, including Native Americans living here in Watertown. It would have simply been removed as another victim of cancel culture without any other points of view. Instead, there are very real discussions on bringing Native American studies not only to Watertown, but also to the state of Connecticut. True collaboration with Native Americans, as well as NAGA, which is the Native American Guardians Association, to promote education, not eradication, can make a real difference instead of simply canceling the mascot. It was a privilege to stand this past Sunday with Native Americans at the Save the Mascot rally. What did I learn from the 3 Native Americans that spoke on Sunday? Well, what I learned was the Pawcatuck tribe was part of the Wappinger Confederacy, which is still in existence today within New York State. More than 210 years ago, the area that is now Watertown belonged to the local Pawcatuck Indians. Now, in 1684, Thomas Judd and 35 other proprietors did buy the land from the Indians, and our town history began. Members of the Wappinger Confederacy want to help us with Native American education and studies. They are passionate about this and why they drove from New York to speak on Sunday. What did I learn from one of them? The term Indian is not offensive in any way. Most profoundly, Watertown resident and Native American Tom Sawyer took his seat at this table as he was not given an invitation, per his words. These are his words. Long generations ago, there was a council not too far from here painted white. We have a problem, and it's called Indian. The result of that meeting was the forced relocation of Native American tribes from east to west. Not too many generations ago, there was another council that sat at this table. We have a problem, and it's called Indian. They took the kids, cut their hair, changed their dress, and tried to steal their spirit. Today, this day in Watertown, we have people sitting at a table, male and female, this council. We have a problem, and it's called Indian. What is the council going to do? Are they going to follow the mistakes of the past? We're going to find out pretty soon. All of us need to sit up, take a seat, and have a vote. Now, Everyone that spoke at this rally thought of the Watertown Indians name as a source of pride, strength, and warrior spirit, not mockery or derision. A decision will be made, and while my wish is to keep the Indian name, my hope is that the best sort of compromise will be made, one that everyone will be able to accept in order for us to move forward with unity and pride. Very sincerely. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Faressa. And just so you know, when your letter that's been submitted will be sent to the committee members and also to the Board of Education. So they'll all
Wonderful.
receive a copy of that, and it'll go on the record at our next board meeting as well. So thank
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Do any other members of the public wish to address the board this evening?
Hi, I would like to. I'm Colleen Murphy, 175 Woodruff Avenue. Thank you to the Watertown Mascot Committee for your thoughtful recommendation. I'm happy to hear about the process, and for the past 5 months, I've been happy to listen and learn with you. Ellie and I have been working really hard the past 5 months, and I think that it will take a little bit of time for us to fully respond, but we will keep everyone updated via our website, whsmascot.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Evans?
Good evening. My name is Brandy Sawyer Emmons. I'm a Watertown resident. I'm an active contributor to the community. I am of Cherokee blood. I have blood that walks our hallways. I am for keeping the Indian. The Indian logo is a tribute to tribal land. It is a symbol of strength, bravery, and perseverance. It is a symbol of beautiful, proud people of great nations within the United States. The Indian logo is a representation of many students, faculty members, and parents. Through the years, it has withstood the test of time. They have smiled, walked with pride in victories and athletic and academic achievements as being a Watertown Indian. It is not offensive. It is not mocking. This particular logo of the Indian is not negative. The negative in this is what is brought forth of the petition to replace the Indian. It has brought a negative impact upon the community, our time, and tax dollars. Tonight, as a community, I think that we need to come forth and focus on education. It is important that we implement education, bring forth Native Americans as studies and classes, their history, their culture, the local tribes, and traditions. I suggest to you tonight an eagle feather, if you would incorporate it. It is symbolic, it is sacred, and universal upon all tribes. And I thank you for this time this evening and for my seat at this table.
Thank you very much. Do any other members of the public wish to address the board this evening?
Leslie, it's Krista.
Go right ahead, Ms. Palumba.
Mr. Palumba, 9 Cayuga Drive. I had planned to say many things tonight. I apologize for being very emotional right now. I am a person who keeps their emotions in check. This has been very personal for me. This journey has been an incredible one of huge highs and huge lows. Unfortunately, the huge lows have come from strangers in our community. I have been threatened. I have been called racist. I have been called narrow-minded, and I am none of those things. just because I have a different point of view. It has been a very rough week for our nation this past week. And I want to remind everyone that this starts in our homes. Kindness starts in our home. Understanding, empathy, kindness, it all starts home in our community. I want to remind parents, your children are listening and watching. They hear your words. Educators, especially to the educators in our school system. Our students are listening and watching. Please be mindful of your words. They're taking everything you say and they are listening and they believe it to be true. So when you are imposing your own opinions, please be very mindful of your words. I want to thank the fellow members of the committee. This has been a rougher journey than I think most of you thought it was going to be, and I appreciate your time. Thank you to the board for listening to all the testimony and reading all the testimony, the reports, the polls, and everything. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Palumbo. Any other members of the public wish to address the board this evening? Mr. Vance?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I wanted to thank especially Dr. Parlato for running the committee in such an honest, open way. She did a fantastic job, and I can't thank her enough. I echo some of my fellow committee members, Commissioner Rinaldi, Krista Palumbo, who spoke tonight. We had a lot of different people from a lot of different corners of the community, and some who came in, with very strong opinions. And I think it was a very educational journey for all of us, and that's a credit to Dr. P. She did really a fantastic job. It has been tough. I can echo Krista's comments. It's sad to see some of the social media discussion. I wouldn't even call it discussion. There are people that have quite a bit of pride in Watertown, in the mascot as it exists now, and will continue to have pride in Watertown if there's a change or if there's not a change. The one thing that I would like to emphasize for your committee is this is a mascot for a high school in our town. It's part of an educational institution, and I know it's a tough decision one way or another, but you are the ones that are elected and put in that spot, and I know that none of you take that responsibility lightly. When I hear about putting the matter out to referendum, I hope that that's not given any serious thought, any more than you would put curriculum out to a referendum or the selection of books for freshman English out to referendum. I think that we have a very good, talented Board of Education, and the decision will not be taken lightly, whether you keep the Indian mascot or retire the Indian mascot. I'd just like to thank again the board for the opportunity to serve. It was a lot tougher than I expected it to be, and I want to thank the fellow members of the committee for being open and honest and having uncomfortable conversations, and I really learned a lot, and for that I'm appreciative. So thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Vance. Do any other members of the public wish to address the board? Do any other members of the public wish to address the board? Okay, in closing, I would just like, again, to echo Mr. Vance's comments and others, to thank Dr. Parlato for her leadership and her facilitation of this committee, and to all of the committee members for your dedication over the last 4 months to this really really challenging work. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The time is 7:55. We are now adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening.